opponent. But then we come in here and I get those roaches, which are good counters to those zealots. I pull out my zerglings and then I fight just with those roaches primarily. And then the roaches also fight the banelings well, and then the hellions try and kite the banelings. So really trying to eliminate most of our losses with thereby getting those proper counters.
Right, roaches is a really good overall counter to zealots, banelings, and zerglings. They lack a little bit of mobility, but right now we're just making a defensive stance. So it's a really good unit to get.
Yeah, they're a really hardy unit. I would like to talk about. They are not good versus stalkers, so I really shouldn't be pushing out like this. The creep gives me a little flexibility, but I shouldn't. But right now I'm going to buy time so I can move up all my spine crawlers and get this kind of more forward defense so that they can't push in on us as easily. And then SCV Rush has this upper area. So really communicate how you're going to go about that defense. We want to hold up here so our expansions are pretty easy to defend. And then look, he's coming in for another baneling bust on my drones, and I just couldn't block that because my defense is still, even though it's forward, it's not forward enough. But I couldn't really bring it out here with all the pressure we're under. So it's a bit of a trade-off.
Yeah, baneling like around the drone lines is so powerful. I mean, there's just it kills all the drones in the area with 2 banelings. It's so cost effective.
Yeah, it's
if anytime you have a chance to do it, then you should do it.
Yeah, and then one thing I want to point out right now that the opponents have done a pretty good job harassing us. They've helped keep my drone count low, which affects my economy. I can't get as much gas, can't get as much minerals. But this whole time, SCV Rush has largely been untouched. He got one pressure situation here. So as the untouched partner, his role really is to keep macroing up and to keep getting those troops so that when we successfully defend our bases, we can push out from there. And it's his army that's really going to lead that push because I'm not capable of doing that push by myself, or because I've been so economically challenged.
Yeah, because one-man Zerg is always pressured. I actually have the opportunity to tech to something higher like tanks, Thors, and Banshees. So in this case, I think I'm getting a lot of mechanical unit, and that really counters a Zerg, a Stalker, Zergling army because tanks just do really well against them. I think he's trying to harass me.
Yeah, you can see he's got a phase prism, a warp prism over here, but SCV Rush has seen this, and so seeing that, it's really important. And then this is a really good move SCV Rush does right here. He sees he's trying to warp in some units. Just target down that warp prism so he's not going to bring in any reinforcements. Save yourself some hassle. And then over here we see blue's actually tech to mute us. So we're thinking we're ready to push out and we're comfortable, but no, I have to pull back. I actually have some spore crawlers just in case, and SCV Rush has he has marines and a couple turrets, so he's pretty safe too. So it's not a great use of the Mutalists. They push us back so we can't harass them. That's good for the opponent, but do always be prepared for that. If your opponent pulls the pressure off of your base, they're probably going to tech to something to try and reapply pressure. I think most opponents have styles to their play. So if they're going to be a macro team, they're macroing up. If they're going to be a harass team, they're going to try and harass. So if they're going to go with the Baneling Stalker early push, they're probably going to try and switch to, Warp Prisms, Phoenix, Mutalist, things like that, because they have general styles. That's not always the case, but it does seem to happen a lot.
Yeah, I think the Zerg player, in the beginning, he wants to really do a lot of harassment, so mid-game, he would like to transition to something like a Mutalist. Whereas a macro Zerg player, he would like to get a macro game, and at the same time, mid-game, he want to get roaches and hydras.
Yeah, definitely. So those tendencies are something to watch for. And I want to point out something right now. It's hard to know your exact role and timing in the game. So being a Zerg player, and I have a roach speed upgrade, I have the Zergling speed upgrade, I try and move around the map and harass while SCV Rush does more of a build-up. You can see he has a very large army now, so he's been doing that macro game, and he has a great Terran mech army, which are really powerful. Especially knowing that the opponent has Mutalisks, and the opponent's also going heavy Stalkers. So, well, he's only got one now, but he had a lot. So if he's going Mutalisks and Stalkers, good counters are tanks and Thors for that. And then I'm trying to push out here with my troops to be a good harass. I like to harass as much as I can because that's the opportunity that Zerg has. And sometimes it's a good decision. Like right now, I'm trying to get to this base before everything is built and constructed, so I can hit it before it's up, which is your best timing to hit it. But as you'll see in this case, I did some damage to those Stalkers. I'm pushing in with what looks like a decent matchup here, so the decision to do it isn't necessarily so bad, but the outcome is the Mutalisks come, the Zerglings surround, the Photons cannons finish, the Warpins come. What looked like a decent attempt is now turning really bad, and I really could have just waited for SCV Rush, whose army, you know, they're fighting a little slightly softened army, but with his army and my army, we really would have been able to push this base with little problems. So that's a trade-off I want you guys to think about in a game, and that's an on-the-spot decision-making thing. It's not easy to do. You know, should I harass quickly or should I wait for my ally? You know.
Yeah, because the cannon's gonna go up, and all of these things have risk to them and things like that. So overall, I think you got your money's worth with those roaches and zerglings, killing quite a few stalkers and zealots.
Yeah, and then so SCV Rush is really, you know, able to push out with his strong army. He looks like, if we look at the army, he's definitely got the largest army in the game, and you can see we've really held that Zerg player back. So now's the time when we're getting comfortable, and we know we take out their expansion. So we'll fast forward this a little. SCV Rush is going to actually expand here. We're going to try and, he's scanned here, you know, we're making sure they don't have other expansions. And then as a Zerg player, mid-game, I actually brought a queen out here to drop 4 different creep tumors. This one was already on its way. So I can get some map vision. You know, and getting vision of the map, we don't have much right now, but we were just over here, we just checked here. You know what your opponent's doing, and we feel like we've really boxed them into their base. So now's the time when we want to push.
Yeah, I feel like we have the macro advantage and we have the tech advantage. That's where we want to make the initiative and attack their base, kind of. And the Reaper is leading the big army.
Yeah, Captain Reaper here. There's no point to do that really, but it looks cool.
I think I built it by accident.
Yeah, and so SCV Rush Thors are you know, excellent counter to mutas, and Thors without a huge amount of roaches are really going to handle the roaches pretty well. And then those tanks sieging up, getting protected by the Thors, they're going to take out the Stalkers, and the Colossus. All that spread damage, really effective against the Hydras, not very effective against the Thors.
Big units, yeah. Thor just has a lot of HP, and you know, Colossus is a splash unit, which doesn't really do that well against such a big, massive unit.
Yeah, so you know, after fending off that rush and establishing our defense collectively, we're able to push out really strong on the opponent, and then always continue, you know, to expand at this point in the game. Really, you can see the game's pretty much over right now. We're in their base. Couple things I'd like to point out: if you're on a push and it's not certain, get some rally points outside your opponent's base so you can quickly bring in those backup troops to push in on them. And you can see there's the good game. So they knew, you know, SCV Rush gets like 9 Thors in your base. You're not gonna survive that.
Yeah, Thors are pretty awesome. They're really good damage dealers. They have very high damage, and they counter many things. They don't necessarily counter Zerglings, but if you get them in critical mass, they're really effective against Mutalisks, Roaches, Hydralisk. Overall, Terran mech army, once you actually get them, is actually very effective.
Yeah, very balanced army is that Terran army, but not very good at harass. And that's one thing that you can look back to in games is, you know, okay, I'm a Zerg player. What's going to be my role? Am I going to work for a harassment game? Am I going to work to just macro up with my Terran ally? Am I going to go with some Roach Hydra to mix in and just get this giant, awesome ball of destruction to walk across the map with? You know, so you have to pick what your game is. And we change up our game all the time. I like to go mutas actually slightly more because I feel it's more annoying and harassing to my opponent, which throws them off their game. They can't macro up, and then SCV Rush usually comes in with some, you know, giant macroed up army at the end after I've done all my harassment, and the opponent was unable to keep up with his macro because they were harassed by me, and then I bring in some, you know, assistant troops. So it's a good balance to our game, but you can go with dual macro, you can go with dual harass. There's a ton of ways to really play this, but, you know, find your game, find out what your opponent's doing, and get those counters to them.
Yeah, like for example in this game, my army is very immobile, whereas one man Zerg is very, very mobile, where he sends his Zergling early to harass the blue player, and then he sends some of his roaches to attack his expansion. I'm just kind of like macroing up a huge army so we could actually finally have a core powerful army to push out into the enemy base. So it the Zerg actually kind of complements the Terran, because Terran is so immobile while the Zerg is very mobile, and you know I kind of rely on one man Zerg to kind of just do a lot of damage doing harassments and stuff like that. While I kind of just turtle up, get a lot of units, try to macro up, get expansions, and secure his expansions and kind of like things like that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of key parts, to these strategies to think about. If you guys have questions on this, just ask us. You can go to our forums and ask some questions too. We try and give you really detailed answers there on how to help out.
Yeah.
Check out our channel, the UEN TV. And,
yeah, subscribe to our channel. It would be really appreciative. I would be really appreciative if you guys could do that. Really helps our channel grow. We really want to spread our videos to everyone. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks for listening.